You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Okay, here we go. 16 days away from puck drop on the 25-26 Maple Leaf season, presented by Bet365. It's another edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. How was your weekend, Rosie?
Monday. I was good. Most of it was spent in a rink, but my goodness, are we getting that late summer out here? 28 degrees on the weekend. Crazy stuff, so I was enjoying that.
It's been hit or miss in these parts. Had a great time over the weekend on Saturday at a charity golf tournament for a friend who passed away. Did a little volunteering, spread the word with Leafs Morning Take, got some new subscribers for us. So really good time, and we got really good weather for that day, but it's been hit or miss. A couple days kind of chillier, a couple days kind of warmer, but I still expect like a hotter time of year the next couple months. I don't know why. It's got that feel in me, you know?
Yeah, you never know. We didn't have much of a summer, and I'm always prepared for the snow to fly this time of year, but we're lucking out so far. But golf tournaments, gosh, I am missing that kind of thing. Those are not for me this summer with some injuries and whatnot, but I'm rehabbing things up, focusing on the hockey season, I think. So, yeah, it's good to see the boys in blue back in their jerseys, albeit it was most of the Toronto Marlies taking it to the actual Ottawa Senators. But, again, we are inching closer to this season, and that's a good sign.
We are. I was at camp on Friday. The one thing I realized right away is how big some of the newcomers are, how big this team is in general, which is a far cry from recent seasons. Even seeing like a Nick Waugh, who I've seen in person before, but he's just like a bigger dude, man. Like I'm 6'3", 6'5". Dakota Joshua's filled out, and it's great to see over his time the last couple of years. But it's weird for me to see a Maple Leafs team so much more broader and bigger, and their approach is a bit different when it comes to management too, right?
Well, yeah, it's all seeming to be part of the plan, right? I think we've been lacking that. Obviously, the regular season success has been there in years past, but I don't think it's a secret that it's a different ballgame in the playoffs. And I think these guys are looking like they're a team that'd be more suited to play that style of play in the playoffs. Obviously, getting ahead of ourselves, but like you say, when you get a look at the team for the first time, you realize that those changes have taken place, and I think it's reason to be a little bit excited, albeit I've mentioned before that I think that this process might take some time, and I'm not going to be the one smashing the panic button if they don't come out of the gates 10-0 and they get some, they have a little bit of, I don't know what you would call it, I guess a feeling out period or a process of learning a new system and figuring out what their identity is, as they've changed quite a bit. And me personally, I'm excited for it.
You just knew the preseason was going to start with a Nick Robertson goal, and that's exactly what happened. We're going to recap that game to a degree. I'm not going into the nuts and the bolts of a preseason game where the Toronto Marlies played the Ottawa Senators, but we'll talk about some of the major storylines. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. I didn't ask you, what did you think of the whole Blue Jays celebration for making the playoffs?
I was watching it with my kid, and he's like, "What did they win? What did they win everything?" No, they just do that if they get into the playoffs, which was kind of somewhat of a foregone conclusion. But that is one thing about baseball that I'm kind of envious of. You party like it's 99, regardless of making it to the playoffs, wild card, getting in, moving to the next round. It is like literal goggles, plastic wrap in the locker room, and champagne blowing up everywhere for every step of the way. Some people always find it funny, but I don't know. I always envy the chill atmosphere of Major League Baseball and baseball in general. But I think it's just kind of part of it's a product of playing so many games. You just can't be like a football player, like screaming and yelling and being at 12 the whole time when you're playing that many games. But it always makes me chuckle seeing them pop bottles and selly that hard for something a little smaller than we're used to in the hockey world.
It really is a war of attrition, and now I guess if the Blue Jays clinch the division, then it's going to be a bigger story and a bigger celebration than that. I believe the magic number down to 4, and I tell you, X is undefeated. Twitter, aka X. Somebody, I guess, pulled out a tweet from me back on January 13th talking about JT Miller and saying the chances of the Leafs and Canucks combining on a blockbuster as likely as the Blue Jays making the playoffs in 2025. So another ice cold take. And rest assured, it feels like people just wait on social media and have that tweet ready to go, and they send it right to me. So I was wrong. There you go, Blue Jays fans. I was wrong. Okay?
People don't forget. People don't forget those bookmarks.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I've been a little more excited as the Jays are looking pretty hot this season. But I do remember the beginning of the season doing our shows, and you guys out there followed a little closer than me, especially you as a big ball fan. But yeah, not too high of hopes with the organization, and they've sure had a year that I think's probably unexpected. So give us another thing to look forward to in October.
Oh, there's nothing like October baseball. I'm looking forward to it. And I think anything that happens is gravy. I mean, the expectation wasn't there for this Blue Jays team. And go back and listen and watch our interview with Max Scherzer. What an absolute stud, and has been an intricate part to this run for the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll see if Bo Bichette can get healthy. And don't forget some of our various Blue Jays channels here at the Nation Network. Over the weekend, Rosie, we lost an absolute legend. This one hit a bit more because I've had several interactions with him. And in fact, I was trying to get him on Leafs Morning Take back in the springtime. Bernie Parent passing away, played with the Leafs from 1970 to 72, two-time Cup winner, back-to-back Conn Smythe, back-to-back Vezina trophies, played with your beloved Flyers as well. I know he was great on the ice, but I wanted people to know that Bernie Parent was like such a good dude off the ice. And that's more important to me.
Yeah, first Ken Dryden and now Bernie Parent. It's sad losing these legends.
Too.
What's that?
Jackman died as well recently.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of saves in heaven. I saw those tweets.
Yeah, you pull your phone open and see that stuff. It's never good, but it's just a thing of life. And personally, I'll be honest, I picture Bernie Parent in a Flyers jersey, playing with that organization. Saw Bernie around all the time, and super good guy. Obviously just a legend of the Flyers heyday, back-to-back cups, as you mentioned, trophies out the yin yang too, and a really nice guy. And big smile is what I remember. And I think some people were saying that on Twitter too. He kind of lit up a room when he walked into it. Big smile, and a guy that people gravitated towards. And again, it sucks to get these press releases or however you find out about it through your phone and realize, geez, another legend has passed away. But a nice life, living into his 80s, obviously. But we remember him today for sure. And again, a reminder that he did play for the Leafs for a good chunk of time too, although most people do picture him in the orange jersey for sure of the Philadelphia Flyers. So rest in peace, Bernie Parent.
Yeah, he's a Flyer. I feel that way too. And I think it was back in 2017, a moment that stood out. I was at All-Star Weekend, and I was having a dart. I ended up having a dart with Bernie Parent. And I'm like, well, the opportunity's there. You know, when you just like, you hack a dart, somebody looks at you, you look at them. I was like, I got to go up. It's Bernie Parent. And he was the nicest dude. Like, we talked for a while, and obviously interviewed him a couple times over my time at NHL Network Radio. And I thought it was important to spread that message, because sometimes you see and it's like, oh, the guy won this and that, and he did so many great things on the ice. But I think you see by the reaction on social media the importance of a guy like Bernie Parent in Philadelphia and just in the hockey world in general. So very, very well said. Gonna miss him for sure. Are you ready to dominate your fantasy hockey league this season? Daily Faceoff has your back with the brand new DFO Fantasy Draft Kit, your one-stop shop for everything you need to build the perfect fantasy hockey team. We're talking player projections, updated line combinations, power play units, sleeper picks, bust warnings, and team previews. Whether you're a seasoned vet or a fantasy rookie, this kit has everything you need to dominate your league. So before you make your first pick or panic in round 5, head on over to dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit and get your hands on the fantasy draft kit. Rosie, as you knew, I do fantasy work over at the NHL with NHL Fantasy. Catch our stuff as well. Been talking a lot about the two top lines in Vegas and Toronto. So you got Barbashev, Eichel, and Marner with the Vegas Golden Knights in Toronto. We got Nyes, Matthews, and Michelli, what we're going to talk about. But did you catch Auston Matthews' comments from Sunday? He's a little annoyed already at the Marner question. Says 2 more weeks and that's it. That's all. I'm not fielding anything else.
Yeah, well, it's getting a little bit tiresome for everybody, I think. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder in the scrums, like, what drives you to ask such a stupid goddamn question when you know the answer's just going to be garbage? You know the guy doesn't want to hear it. Like, why? I guess we're talking about it right now, right? And it was the hottest clip.
I can't disparage Kevin McGraw. He's a beauty. I think because he got the quote like that. that's what we're talking about today. But
Yeah.
I think I don't know, it's harder than people think to ask questions in scrums like that. You want to be different and innovative. I can't slag on Kevin for asking that question, but I get your point. Like, I get it. There has to be a time, and we've experienced the fatigue on this podcast. There has to be a time where it's no longer about the guy in Vegas. I don't even want to talk about his name anymore. So.
Well, I think Austin's right. I mean, you're in camp, so what's everyone thinking? Oh, there's a different look to camp this year. Let's ask some questions about that. And
Yeah.
hopefully when the puck drops and it's opening night, and everyone is officially on their new respective teams, we can move on. And sure, you're going to check in on the Knights, and you're going to look forward to when they face each other. Fine, that's a storyline that I'm excited for. I get it, but the day-to-day, oh goodness, back and forth about this guy who has left. Like, he left for a reason. He's gone now. We've got new players that we want to talk about and get excited for. So I'm hoping at puck drop, like Auston Matthews, that'll be the last time you have to air too many of those questions out, as it'll become a thing of the past. And I hope there's new storylines to talk about as we get into the season.
Tell you what, I risk of being too horny about it. Again, I was at practice on Friday, seeing him up close. There's a little pep in the Matthews step again. Like, he looks like Auston Matthews, which is dynamite to see, man.
Yes, I know. By all accounts, he's healthy, but we're left out in the ether to just, I don't speculate on our own and guess and go off the seat of our pants, because we don't get a lot of information from them. As we mentioned, I think last week, we don't know what was wrong with him all last year. We don't know what was wrong with him in the playoffs before, the year before. I think he missed a game 7 just out of the blue. Just a little footnote here. Auston Matthews isn't going to play in this elimination game. And it just, like, that was the last thing said about it. So just weird. And I hope that we can leave that behind. And I hope the guy is healthy. Honestly, I don't even care if he's on the Maple Leafs or if anyone else in the league, a superstar with the caliber of play that Auston Matthews is capable of playing. If a guy's constantly injured and there's something nagging him that could be detrimental to his career, regardless of who it is, for the game and for the player, it's kind of sad, right? When, you see, you talk about the Carey Price or the Shea Weber, these guys that were kind of cut short due to this injury. Like, go back to Bobby Orr if you want. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time, and he just physically had to hang him up. It's sad when you see that. So I'm hoping Auston is healthy and has those injuries, whatever they were, in the rear view mirror. And it is a great sign to see him looking like he's firing on all cylinders this camp and this preseason. So hopefully that continues.
At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Since I bring it up, I mean, we got to clarify that we are in podcast form. People seem to be shocked when we tell that to them. But you can find us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, not just on YouTube. We are everywhere. So important to bring that up as well. Speaking of everywhere, the Toronto Marlies go down the road there. They go into Canada, and I'm like, this is why I don't bet on the preseason, and I didn't bet on this game, because you look at that Ottawa roster, and you're like, it's going to be 17-1 for the Senators. But this shows me something. This has to show you something if you're Craig Berube, that a couple vets go in there like Yarncroke and Robertson, I would say, is a vet with this type of roster, and they play a hard game. They play a tough game. They play a style conducive to winning, and they overwhelmed Ottawa. Like, they go in Ottawa and win this preseason game. And it was great in the first period to see Yarncroke score, as you see on your screen. Robertson scores. Like, those are the bigger stories for me.
Yeah, well, of course, the two bubble guys that we have been talking about may or may not be on this roster. Obviously, a logjam of forwards. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go out there and make the decision hard and force their way onto the team. I mean, as a player, all you can do is control what is in your control and go out there and just pop off and show that you're not going to accept the fact that you're not going to be on the roster. You're going to force your way on it. You're going to prove that you belong on the team. And it makes it hard for people who are picking the team on what that's going to look like. But they did their job the other night. Obviously, it is preseason. That Yarny goal in particular, you're just coming off the half wall and just curl up, and that D-man just decides to give you the whole lane. I don't think that's going to happen in regular season hockey, but I'm sure those guys are happy to get on the score sheet and be the leaders that they were on that team that's full of young players. So Yeah, the preseason's, it's hard to know how much stock to take into it. I don't think people put a lot of stock into it, but that oftentimes does happen. A team that's got no experience and a bunch of guys that won't be on the team playing against a veteran team, they sometimes just come out with so much piss and vinegar they end up winning the thing. But it was nice to see the Leafs look good and, some physicality out there too, and things were getting a little gritty. I've noticed that throughout the preseason. So all in all, for what it's worth, it's off to a good start for the Maple Leafs.
I love this little Rielly-Gregg rivalry. Like, Pizzetta was in the mix with it. Marshall Raphael lines him up, has a Tilly in that game. Like, I love the fact that it's the first preseason game, and it's like, I'm not waiting. I don't even care if I'm on the team. I'm not waiting to get my licks in on this guy. Love that.
I know people don't forget he's got a little target on his back, and even players that weren't on the roster during the things that went down in years past with the Morgan Rielly incident and everything else. It's he tends to get under people's skin, and I love it, man. They faced each other in the first round this year, and this is preseason, and you're seeing this stuff go on. Yes. I like that stuff, man. It's setting the tone. These guys have been training all summer long, and they're ready to go with real bullets here. And to see the physicality and the guys leading the charge with pushing people around and standing up for each other and for themselves. Honestly, I think people in Leafs Nation have been crying for that for the last handful of years. Obviously, they went and got Ryan Reeves, and that's not going to be a thing anymore. I don't know if that was quite the answer, but just an overall team toughness where everyone is willing to stick up for each other. It doesn't matter what line is out there. It's just, I don't know, as a fan and as a player, that's what you want to see. It says a lot to me. When guys look down at their toes when it's a scrum and don't want anything to do with it, it's like, how into this are you? How much does this mean to you? How much do you care? And sometimes in the past, it has seemed like not a whole hell of a lot coming out of the blue and white. And again, I think that's a little microcosm of how this has changed and how this team will be playing with a little bit more passion. I think we can all get behind that.
I think you hit it there. It's team toughness. Like, just look imposing. Look like a guy you don't want to fuck with, for a lack of a better term. Like, it doesn't have to be drop the gloves every shift. And that's why I think there's attention to, especially on the blue line, there's a lot of trees back there for Tree. And up front, some of the guys they brought in, like you look at Dakota Joshua, like, you've seen him scrap before. He's fought Brady Tkachuk, I think, a couple of years. It could have even been last year. Like, team toughness is more than just dropping the gloves whenever you see fit. It's like, be tough to play against. And I think there's different aspects that you can bring to a team that the Maple Leafs have done the last couple of years that just will make them tougher to look and play against here.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those new guys that are coming in, and you mentioned some of the newcomers I think they're going to provide that. And honestly, when you're playing against a team and they're soft and they have nobody, they all want to play street hockey out there, and that. And when there's a little scrum or a little push and match, they turn away and they all skate for the line change and leave one guy in the crease getting shoved around by four others. That a team is like that. And if you get behind the eight ball, you look around, you're like, hey, boys, let's start putting the hammer down on these guys and imposing ourselves physically. Let's finish every check, get in their face, start running your mouth, touch visors to each other, tell them you're coming, let a guy know that it's going to be a long night, and they'll fold. And that has kind of been, throughout the history of hockey, teams that are softer can get pushed right out of a building and you lose games because of it. And I think that the Leafs have fallen victim to that sometimes, where they can't get control of the game and they relinquish momentum because the game gets a little bit physical and people start playing in those dark arts between the whistles. And some teams don't like that and they go away. And we have had that reputation, and it sucks. And I hate cheering for a team and being a fan of a team and covering a team that has that mentality. And again, it looks like, by all accounts, that is going to take a turn here, especially this year. And Craig Berube is a big part of that as well. And again, just the game of hockey. You look at the successful teams, they've got some grit to them. And I don't think you can win a Stanley Cup without having a good chunk of that. It's too damn hard. It's a bunch of men playing for something they care passionately about. You're going to have to get physical. And I am just as excited as anyone to get the season underway and see that DNA start to take form.
No longer soft. I concur with you. So Ben Danford makes his NHL preseason debut. If you recall, last year got hurt in the rookie camp. So he played well, I thought, despite taking 2 penalties in that game. Easton Cowan is a guy, obviously, we're going to have close eyes on here in the preseason. +1, 14-19 of ice, and he played on the quote-unquote top line with Robertson and David Kampf. Like, it felt like everywhere I looked when it came to that roster yesterday afternoon in Ottawa, it's like, this guy's not on the team, this guy's not. Like, like all the bubble guys, like I don't know what they're gonna do with Robertson, Kampf, Yarncroke, Cal. There's like 4 guys where it's like we all know they're not making the team. I'd be shocked.
I know it's weird, and our countdown that started at, I don't know, what was our countdown at,
Like
100 and
55.
some?
Yeah.
Geez,
Yeah.
it's down to the nitty gritty here, and that decision is going to have to be made. I don't know what it is. I do know that in preseason, if some of those players are standing out and they look damn good and they're in really good shape and they're bringing all the things to the table that the team is asking for that year, my God, it's going to be a hell of a tough decision. I personally hope that a trade could get made at some point in time, any day here, and Tree Living, gets something over the finish line and thinks that, a deal is in place that's going to make the team better and solve some of those issues that they have at depth at the forward position. And we could get someone that we need. I think obviously that would be the ideal scenario, but as Trees even mentioned, he's been trying. It's not like that stuff grows on trees. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of the storyline of camp is how are those forwards going to be rounded out into an actual, opening night roster? I don't know. Some guys might have to go on waivers. Again, usually you're strategic with when you put a guy through waivers. You do it with a whole boatload of other players that are going down from camp and see if you can get a guy kind of lost in the mix. A lot of teams are trying to thin their herd as well, so not a great time to pick up a David Camp or a Yarncroke. So you want to hold on to the players and have them. You don't know what the future holds, but I don't know. Barring any trade that might happen, which I think is probably less likely than what you would think. I don't know. There's going to be some drama, I think, at rounding out this roster and figuring out what the opening night looks like. But again, I think that the players are into making it difficult for the powers that be.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the best case scenario is for all these guys to play well. Like it's a win-win. You push for a potential playoff spot. You make the decision hard. You also butter yourself up for a potential trade if you're Yarncroke or Robertson. Like I think it's a positive. I laugh because every preseason Nick Robertson's outstanding and he scores and he shows all this consistency. And then you get to the playoffs and he just can't find himself. Like I don't know where you're at in the Robertson conversation, but I think it's time to move on. Like we've seen him in different roles and people would bitch and complain that he hasn't played in the top 6. He hasn't got a fair shot. He's in camp so far. He's pretty much been on the 4th line, which I don't see the fit there either, but I'm ready to move on. Having said that, I hope he has a really, really good camp. By all accounts, a great teammate. He's handled this very, very well. There hasn't been one moment where you hear Nick Robertson complaining through the media. He's done his thing. And I think it's just time for a change of scenery for him.
Yeah, and it's going to be a change for somebody. Like, who would you rather have on that 4th line spot? Say Yarncroke, Cowan, or Robertson? Like, what do they do?
Well, here are the names. So Robertson, Yarncroke, Pezzetta, Kampf, Cowan. It's Lawrence Lawton, I think, is going to be 2/3 of that line. To answer your question, I was mulling this over last night. I think it's Calle Yarncroke. I think contract year, so he's a motivated player. He's a guy in the past when not injured, he has proven that he can be a pretty decent NHL player. Last year, he was not healthy at all, didn't provide anything in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He shoots right. Like, that's the big thing for me is they lack the right-handed shot in that lineup. So Calle Yarncroke would be my answer. Rosie, how about you?
Yeah, there you go. It'll be interesting to see what Cowan looks like. I don't think that it does him a lot of service to start his NHL career on the 4th line. With this north-south hockey and playing super simple and wanting to really get the cycle down low and forechecking like crazy and finishing everything and being really heavy and playing that style as they have, self-admittedly going through a DNA change here. I don't know if that's better suited for him. Obviously, he's not really that type of player. I think he's more dynamic and more offensive. And it's always that conundrum of, is it better to hang on by a thread in the National League for a really young player playing in a role he's probably not suited for? Or is it better to go to the Marlies and get a bunch of reps and get your confidence up and play your style of game against men in a professional ranks and develop yourself that way? So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I can't really see David Kampf anything but center, and I think that spot is taken. So he's kind of off the radar. It would also be nice to open up that cap space of his contract, which is kind of a hindrance to him right now. But yeah, Robertson or Yarncroke, I mean, neither of them are blowing your hair back too hard. And like you mentioned, Robertson likes to shine at certain times when I don't know, maybe it's a little bit easier to shine, I guess would be fair to say. But the consistency with Robertson, it's just, you see it there and you're like, God damn, you've got a lot of tools in the toolbox, but you can't get your hands on them often enough. And it becomes frustrating. And 4 games and 5 games and 6 games go by without any real production out of them. And you're like, hey, how are you, like, what do you do other than nothing? If you're not on the score sheet, are you doing anything? And I just think that, yeah, Yarn Croak maybe, but that doesn't exactly blow my hair back either. I want that. But he's got the skill. It's tough, man. It's honestly, I think when we look at this roster, and maybe we'll go through it here, I just think we are missing a body at forward, which is crazy to say because we have a logjam of forwards. But once the dust settles on that, I think that we're one name away from shoving everyone just to fall nicely into the place that they belong. I think we're one body away from having a really well-rounded forward roster. And again, I'm glad it's not in my hands to have to sort that out, but there are some decisions to be made.
Again, the big thing is the salary cap space, because I could envision them going with 13 and 7. And, looking at the names, I see Cowan with the AHL, Pizzetta or AHL. I think Robertson and Yarncroke both make the team, and I think David Kampf is put on waivers. Like, I don't know who's a qual. Like, I think obviously they're trying to deal Robertson and Yarncroke and guys like that, but you got to get the value that you want to get. But that's probably the way I see it breaking down, is Yarncroke and Robertson fighting for playing time, probably.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely, and that just makes sense, right? Open up that space with Camp. It's him being a centerman and us having Scott Lawton. I think that's the writing on the wall right there, that he will go on waivers. Cowan is probably the question I had a minute ago is probably answered by put the kid in the minors and have him start playing pro hockey. Let that be the stepping stone that it's supposed to be for a player like him. I think that would be smart. And then, like you said, we're flip-flopping between Yarncroke and Robertson. Like, who could have that? Well, fight it out. I mean, they both scored in their first preseason game, so let's see what the rest holds for them. And I think one of them will be on right wing in the opening night roster. The other one will be in the press box. And again, if Nick Robertson starts to go stale and do nothing for 2 games in a row, well, here comes Calle Yarncroke, and you keep the competition for that spot open through just that. Like, we're gonna go with the hottest hand, and it's a what have you done for me lately league, and you'll play with the guy that you think's gonna give you your best chance that night, and they'll have to fight for it. And again, I've been in that position before where you're in and out of the lineup, and for those 2 guys, I don't think the season is going to be like that for the entire year. I think that's how it'll start off, and then the dust will settle, things will change, a trade will happen, something will change, and it won't be like that forever. But I agree with you. That's probably the most likely scenario coming out of camp here.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. So Max Domi back at practice, and I think obviously with Michelli on the top line, McMahon on line 2, it means Domi's going to be on the third line with Joshua and Watt. Do you like that fit for a Domi if he's not with Auston Matthews and Matthew Nyes, I guess?
I actually do. Like, I don't think Domi is your first line player on a team that's trying to win the Stanley Cup. I just don't. And it's not a knock to Domi at all. I think he's got the skill, and as people have mentioned, he's got some chemistry on that line, which is great. And you can't have chemistry with a line like that without having some skill and know what you're doing offensively. That being said, I don't want Domi to be our go-to guy to score the go-ahead goal with 3 minutes left in a game. I want him to play more of a mucky, grindy type of game, which I think he's capable of. I want him to skate his nuts off and hit absolutely everything that moves. And then, if that leads to some ozone time, he's obviously got the skill to pot one too. He's not going to be a guy like me who's just out there to run around and hit and just give you a couple of ozone shifts where you're banging and crashing and keeping them helmed in and throwing the puck away, and then you get your big boys out for an ozone faceoff. He's not really that guy either. So I think you could have a well-rounded line there with some skill and some speed and some grit and some tenacity and doing the north-south stuff that Berube wants. I don't mind it. That being said, I'm not in love with McMahon being in the top 6 either. So maybe it'll work out. But again, it screams to me that we're one name away from, having all these guys really set into a role that they're probably best designed for. But this is what we have right now, and it's pretty damn good. Obviously, eyes on Michelli as he's looking at that top line. I was hoping he was going to start there. You got him. He's new. You're missing Mitch Marner. Put that playmaker guy right there. See if you can get some chemistry early. See if you can have, his thoughts on his previous couple seasons put into the rearview mirror and start to access, that really good season he had a couple of years ago and take off at the beginning of the season the way you want to on the right foot. I think it makes sense to me. So we'll see where that lines up. But I like that Domi's versatile too, and he can play throughout the lineup. But I mean, that's a pretty mean lineup that has also got a bit of skill and can probably do some damage.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a role reversal on Tuesday night when the Leafs host the Ottawa Senators at Scotiabank Arena, and that I think the Maple Leafs address a lot of their regulars. So it'll give us our first look at some of these lines together in action, maybe the Matthews line, the second line. I disagree a bit. I think Bob McMahon is a guy who's going to intrigue me a lot this season. Contract year, when he's playing his best hockey, he's like scoring every night and, scores in bunches. And of course, I think we have that bad taste in our mouth considering the way he finished last season where he just had nothing, absolutely nothing. But if you recall, it was around last December or November, this guy was one of the hottest players in the league. I'm not just talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Like we know McMahon has it in him. Bigger body, he's got the speed, he's got the shot. If you recall, I think John Tavares got banged up, but this trio got an extended look, and they look pretty damn good with Tavares and Nylander. And I like the JT look. He's a great passer. You feed one sniper on one side, a sniper on the other side, and McMahon brings that dynamic of speed in the top six too, which I like. But I think you're right. Goes without saying, they are missing a bona fide stud, we'll say like in the middle six or maybe even in the top six, where that would really, really complement and complete this roster. But I would expect over the coming months, they'll find a way to fill that role. But I kind of like the idea of giving McMahon this assignment off the bat here.
Yeah, and I hope that's true too. And you're probably right. I think that there is a bad taste in my mouth from recency bias on wanting something out of Bobby McMahon, and just like it just seemed like a warm body at the end there. And we know he can skate, and his shot, his release is unreal. But he definitely cooled off at the end, and that soured me a little bit mentally, thinking like, okay, he's not the guy to play in that top six. He's just not. But like you said, contract year, he's hungry. Maybe he wasn't healthy. Who knows what was going on? But a little bit of consistency out of him would go a long ways. And maybe that's your opportunity to get more consistent, is play with those big guys. Like you say, you got the vision of JT in the middle, and obviously Nylander does his things. And if Bobby can step it up, maybe that's a line that does work. And again, it's preseason, it's early. I don't mind throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. So it's a big opportunity for him, and hopefully he takes it, because he does have a lot of tools, and he has proven before that he can be effective. So I guess we'll keep eyes on that, and then eyes on Domi down on that third line. But it's interesting, and I do like the fact that guys can move around the lineup a little bit. Sometimes you're completely handcuffed, and you're like, well, I'd like to try this guy here, but there's no way we can move so and so to play with those guys. And these guys are multifaceted, so it's actually a good problem to have.
You played for Craig Berube, and obviously knowing, having covered him for a long period of time, you know what kind of roster and team he's trying to set forth. Like I always bring this up in St. Louis, he had Alex Steen on the fourth line. And that's why I think they want to spread the wealth. They want to have depth, and they want to have the ability to have confidence in the fourth line almost just as much as the second line or the first line. And I Scotty Lawton's another guy that the more and more I talk to people, it's like, I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table after a long summer of training, getting acclimated to being back home, being on the fourth line, knowing your role, knowing your identity. Because, talking to some people at practice on Friday, they're like, he has this glowing personality. And you know this, you played with him in Philadelphia, that is infectious. Like it's good to have glue guy. I think he's a consummate glue guy to me.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something that the market is too interested in hearing. They've brought in glue guys before. They have a history of bringing in wily veterans and great personalities and good locker room guys, and no one gives a shit really if you're outside of the locker room. Obviously within the team, the coaches, the players, day to day, having those guys in the room, it is a big part of it. I mean, it's a grind the whole season, and to have the players with great personalities, great teammates, good guys to have positive outlooks on things, that is very valuable. But I like the fact that Lawton, he didn't come in here and blow people's hair back all that much. So he's a little bit off the radar for me. And I think that'll suit him well because he can bust out of the gates and really show what he's got. No one's sitting there with a magnifying glass, putting him on the spot. I think he can just go and do his thing. And now that he's acclimated to Toronto, like you said, I think that could be a factor, that line. And I do like the way Craig Berube likes to spread the wealth. I think it's important to run 4 lines. There's nothing worse than when you only have 2 lines out there that can be effective, and the other guys are just kind of like place fillers while the guys are getting a blow on the bench. And when you're playing against a team like that, you just get too many opportunities to set your game plan in motion and to get your identity established in the game. And then when those good lines do come out, it's like, man, we're up against a wall here and we just can't get it going. And it's a recipe for, spinning your wheels and skating in mud and turnover central, and you can't get the puck and you're playing in your end too much. I like rolling it with some speed, rolling it with some vigor. And, we'll see what this team looks like. But I guess I'm saying I can see where they're going with the mentality of this roster and how they've designed it. And a lot of good pieces in place. And I think there's reason to believe that, barring some disaster, this team is going to be a team to be dealt with on a night-to-night basis.
Of course, that was the big story with the Florida Panthers, which made them this time around so difficult to play against, was that third line with Marchand, Lundell, and Luosterainen, and then the fourth line, just the way they captured that identity. It started in, unfortunately enough, in that Maple Leaf series, guys like AJ Greer started doing their thing and providing points and hitting, and everybody just knew their role. And I think ideally on a roster who wins the Stanley Cup, every player's just got to buy in. I know it's the biggest cliche in professional sports, but it's true. Whether you're the Oilers or the Florida Panthers or the Columbus Blue Jackets or the Toronto Maple Leafs, there has to be buy-in across the roster and camaraderie. Like, not talk about baseball. That's the one thing that's really stood out for me with the Blue Jays is the camaraderie, man. Like, they look and play like they enjoy playing with each other. And you're a guy who has played professional. Sometimes that's not always the case, we'll say, in a locker room, right?
No, it's not. I mean, I don't know, whether you work on a construction crew or you work in an office building or you have a staff in a teacher's lounge, like sometimes things click and sometimes, it's a little rougher around the edges and things are going against the grain. And it's no different with the hockey team, although I think it's just that much more important with the hockey team to have everything clicking, from a camaraderie standpoint and a gelling standpoint, to have chemistry is just huge. And I think that the little bit that we do see of these guys so far, whether it's at the golf course or their interviews, they seem like they're relaxed around each other and they're confident and they like each other. And, when they rib on each other and rip each other, that's honestly a really good sign that everyone's laughing and have a good time. And when you go through that day to day and the ups and downs of being a professional, you really need that. You need to lean on each other and you need to, people always say, oh, we're like a family when you win, right? And teams that have won a cup or whatever, they'll get back together 10 years later and it's like a must-do thing because of all those memories and the feelings that you have when you have a good team who really cares. And I mean, you go down the lineup and I just see it as a bunch of guys that I think they seem like you could see them having the same mentality. There's some skill there, obviously, which you need, but I think they're all willing to buy in and they have that workhorse mentality, a lot of them, and you mix and match a bunch of them and it rubs off on each other. I could see these guys having that chemistry and feeling that bond amongst each other. And obviously that's what we've been looking for since 67. But, we know now that you can't just put a bunch of numbers from a piece of paper and shove them on another piece of paper and say, that's your great hockey team. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And I think hockey is as much of a game as any where you have to have chemistry and you have to gel and you have to have minds that are alike and have that buy-in or you're just not going to have success. And obviously we haven't seen it and it's early, but I think there's as reason to believe as there ever has been that this group could come together and really gel and maybe do something special.
Patty Mafia writes in, Leafs are tougher to play against, which we both, I think, agree with. Francesco Pinto makes the most astute point you can make right now. Leafs will be judged in April. You are so right on that front. At the Leaf Station 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's always fun to talk hockey again. And with that, Rosie, over the next couple weeks, the power play conversation. Whether it's October or April, always a polarizing conversation, certainly in this market. And here we go again. Morgan Rielly is going to be the power play quarterback on PP1. I don't think they had any other options. They really, I mean, unless you're going Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So I'm not stunned in this development, but all you hear is that Morgan Rielly had a strong offseason, looks rejuvenated, some pep in his step. So we'll see how he fares here in the top unit. Will look a bit slightly different, obviously, without Mitch Marner there.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? He's kind of your first option to take that spot. He's got the experience in it, and by all accounts, people are saying that he looks great and feels great and seems different. Has had a big summer, and maybe is having a different mindset this year, which sometimes that's all it takes. So, we'll throw it out there and see what it looks like. Again, I think they're one name away from having a lot of pieces fall into place here. We'll see what happens throughout the season, but it makes sense that he's there, and hopefully they have success. That's all you can really do. I just really don't want to have another season where you don't even want a power play, because it is such a stinker and it just kills the momentum of the game when you just get 2 or 3 of these power plays and it's like turnover city or odd man rush, or you can't even gain entry into the zone. It just takes the wind out of your sails to the point where we've been there in the past seasons where it's like, don't even give us one. We're worse off by getting that power play because of how shit it looks during the power play and what the result of that is, trying to get back on track after a stinker like that. So hopefully it's better. And honestly, that's all you can do for sitting in this seat, is just sit there and go, well, hopefully Morgan Rielly can QB that thing and find some chemistry, but there'll probably be some new bodies up in front of him, and maybe they can be the reason to break through here and have a power play that doesn't go through those woes.
PP1, Nyes, Tavares, Nylander, Morgan Rielly, Auston Matthews. The second power play units featured McMahon, Waugh, to an extent Cowan. He's not going to make the team. Ekman-Larsson and Michelli. But that would be the perfect scenario if you don't experience as much of a drop-off on PP2. Like, there's going to be a drop-off with the marquee talent on PP1 to PP2. But just maybe every now and again, some offense from PP2. And I'm curious to see how they split their units. Like, do they go 120, 130 with PP1, and then the remaining 30 seconds will be PP2, or do they split it down the middle? And I think a guy like Michelli, for example, helps the second power play unit. Bob McMahon, I don't know who's going to have the puck, and maybe it's Michelli on PP2, but that would be such a great development if they can get just a bit more to the second power play unit.
Yeah, and I think the times will depend on, how are you entering the zone? Are you able to set up and start getting some good looks? If you do that in the first 30 seconds and it looks good and they get a dump out of it, well, I think that same crew is going to go back and break it out again and try another crack at it. But if it's turnover, enter the zone for a second, lose it, and then maybe we're gonna have to spread the wealth a little bit and look around. So we'll see what it looks like. Obviously, I'm not a power play specialist, but I do know the woes that they've had in the past. And yeah, man, there was some times where, like, you're wondering what on earth is going on in the power play meetings. They have a lot more of those when the power play is struggling. And last year, if you remember, they could not enter the zone with any sort of possession whatsoever. Yeah. And it was just like turn around 3 times and try it again, and then get a line change and try peeper 2. So I can't imagine it's going to be that bad. Again, a couple of different names. And yeah, I think there's reason to believe that second unit would be better. Honestly, I'm kind of excited just to see Michelli in general. I don't know a whole lot about him. I do think that his ceiling is very high. I do think he's got a lot more to give than what he was giving the last 2 seasons. And by all accounts, was not happy in his situation the last couple of years. So, with the bodies that are going to be around him and the opportunity that he gets and the vision that sounds like that I believe he's got from what I've heard, I'm really excited to see him in all situations of the game, especially playing with those big boys in the power play as well. So something to look for that I've been kind of waiting all summer to see how this guy fits.
Hey, don't sleep on the penalty kill either. Derek Lalonde has been known as one of the better PK guys in the league for maybe the last 5 to 7 years. Obviously goes to Detroit. He was the head coach who had more of an emphasis on more of a team aspect there. But in Tampa, he was the guy, and that PK was one of the best year in and year out. And we're seeing Matthews and Nyes play together. Of course, last year it was a lot of Matthews and Marner, which makes a lot of sense. And even like Lawton and Lorenz, I think there's going to be a multitude of different looks and guys. But I'm very curious to see how it looks. A bit different. If you can be like a team that's top 5 in power play and top 5 in PK, you are going to be looking mighty, mighty fine next spring, I think.
Oh, I think that'll go a long ways, because I think that 5-on-5, this team's going to be as good as they've been in a long time. When you can roll the lines and like you say, everyone's kind of bought into the same system, and you just bring it line after line after line, it just gives no reprieve to your opposition. Like, they can't come up for air at any point in time. The coach starts to get, panicking behind the net and trying to figure out what's going on. And you want that little bit of a break where they play a line that just doesn't quite, chase down those pucks, or that tries to do that fancy play, and you can jump on a loose one. You can, create a turnover. You can make them scramble a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, here we go. But when you have 4 lines that you're rolling and they're all addicted to the same bloody philosophy out there, and it's one that works, it just provides nothing but frustration for the opposition. I think that's what they're going for, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Like you said, you just rattle off a bunch of names, and Joshua, Nick Waugh, and these guys that we haven't seen before. It's exciting to see what they bring, and I'm hoping that it's kind of this breath of fresh air of like, this is what we've been missing, and people start to get excited and ahead of themselves, which we're famous for doing, thinking about what this could mean for down the road in the playoffs.
Yeah, Nick Waugh, as you mentioned, another guy who I think could get a significant look on the penalty kill. You still down to have Matthews on the PK? I know a lot of teams around the league are having some of their superstar players kill penalties, but you still down for that?
I would like it if you don't have to. I mean, what's everyone talking about, after the trade deadline and coming down the stretch into the playoffs? They're like, do we need to rest this guy? It seems like all these guys that log such high minutes, they oftentimes end up injured, and it's a big question of, do you play him down the stretch or not? And Matthews has had injury issues, and the PK, to be honest, it's a workhorse game. It's work your bag off, block shots, dive in front of that thing, second effort. And like, do you want your superstar doing that when he's prone to injury, and when you want to play him 20 plus nights every night anyways? It's kind of difficult to say that that's where you want him. And I would like some of these other guys, like these Waz and these guys you talk about, to step up and be the penalty kill guys. Let them block the shots and stuff. I don't really want my Hart Trophy Rocket Richard winner to be blocking shots and killing penalties. It just seems like it's too much work for a guy where you want him as fresh as could be, and you want to keep him out of those scenarios that could leave him injured and have him on the shelf. That's just a disaster scenario. So I understand why they put him there. He's damn good, and he's smart, and he's effective. But if you don't have to use him there, why not have him on the bench and give him a little bit of a rest?
I agree. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. You can talk anything: football, baseball, basketball, probably not, or hockey. Anything you're looking at these days?
Nothing crazy. I'm just looking through some things and saying, why not go into the weeds? And before the season starts, and people start maybe talking about somebody, and Marner starting all conversations, taking some of the spotlight off certain players. What about a Matthew Nyes? Betting on him to have over 60 points. I think he was too shy last year. I think he's ready to just take a massive step forward. I think he's going to be one of the leaders on this team, one of the go-to guys in every situation. And I think he's just going to be putting the puck in the net and setting other guys up as well. So over 60 points for Matthew Nyes, I think is a good bet right now. I think it'll be one you look back on Christmas and say, shit, I should have taken that in September.
I like it, even if you can find some point props with Matias Michelli. And certainly we've talked a lot about Auston Matthews. I got him winning the Rocket again. I got him scoring over 50 goals. I would look at those two prop bets as well. So great stuff. Again, the Ottawa Senators into town on Tuesday for the preseason home opener, where we anticipate a very pro-heavy Maple Leafs roster. So essentially likely to get our first looks at some of these guys like Michelli and Joshua and Nick Waugh. So like an exciting time. I mean, the first time to see these guys, the result really doesn't matter. I think it always is great to be able to troll the Ottawa Senators this early in a season, but hopefully they don't return it. And they're obviously not going to dress a lot of their big boys for the road game off the bat here on Tuesday. But I think if you're a Maple Leafs fan, health is number one, and two, start to build some chemistry there, right?
Yeah, that's what this season's all about. I mean, it's not anything to get too excited about, but it's your first chance to see them in a situation. So take that for what it's worth. And I'm sure people after a long summer are licking their chops to see some of these guys in that uniform. So we look forward to that tomorrow night.
I like that from AC Parker. Matthews for Art Ross is plus 8,000. $5 bet pays 405. I know a lot of people in the chat as well also saying maybe Matthews for Selke. So we're expecting big things from the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Always expect big things here over at Leafs Morning Take. Great stuff today, Rosie. And we'll reconvene on Wednesday, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. We'll have the result of that heavy-duty matchup. I will be here. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Thanks to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Again, we're back on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.